there I was, doing my job in Cape Town, Skyping Jeannie.
Well, I checked in and Ashton Kutcher and Demi Moore had just moved out.
At that moment in time, probably the worst mistake I could have made. I was so tired, and she was living the glamorous life in Carcassonne.
I'm having a ball in the south of France.
No one's ever heard of Aubusson before, and it's not on any of the tourist guides or tourist maps. It's this forgotten little town in the middle of France, in the middle of nowhere, but it's so beautiful.
I reunited with Janez and Aubusson, and let me tell you what a contrast. From Monaco to a tiny little French village. However, I was pleasantly surprised. I was picturing an old little French cottage in the middle of nowhere. Well, I was completely shocked when I got here because there was this palatial mansion in front of me that looked like a home that dreams are made of. Oh, this is amazing. It was so good to have Janez with me again. At least somebody could carry my luggage now.
Your makeup there.
It's not makeup.
It was such a familiar experience. Arrived from Cape Town in France, and there I am, carrying Jeannie's bags. Was I right or was I wrong, Jeannie?
Oh my goodness. And it all looks completely original, from the stained glass as we walked in to the fishbone parquet and the pressed ceilings. It's all original. And the tapestries.
Did you know that the original owners of Chatteau Sallandrouze actually used to be manufacturers? So this might be an original.
This is actually the perfect place, my dream house for me to live out my fantasies as a baroness of a chateau quite like this.
Let's go find that baron, darling. Jeannie was giving me quite a hard time because she wasn't convinced on the location and didn't think it would be anything special, but when we arrived here, she was impressed. Jeannie, I've got a room fit for a king.
Well, I have the princess room.
If I can't sleep in this room, then I've got a serious sleeping disorder. Look at the size of this bed and this beautiful big headboard and these two red chairs that almost contrast the olive color of the walls.
This is what they call the honeymoon suite, and I figure they gave it to me because I'm such a honey. But honestly, this is a bed where dreams are made of. The romance of the French-style design is just beautiful. One can almost imagine Marie Antoinette having these beautiful style wardrobes and these ornate ceilings. Heaven, really.
Sallandrouze is completely different to any other hotel I've ever stayed at because it doesn't feel like you're in a hotel. It's so grand, it's so overwhelming, the details are so precise, it's so old. It feels like you're being taken back in time. The first thing we did when we arrived is we walked through the entire building because we were so impressed with this place. And there in the middle of the main lounge was my father's book. Come here. It's my dad's art book. Coffee table book.
No way!
What a small world.
What are the chances of finding it in Paris? Let's see.
You can see pictures. There's my dad when he was about 20 years younger. There's me.
That's you as a little boy. That is so cute.
Oh, Jeannie, this room is right up your alley.
This is so perfect. This is beautiful. Janez, I want this house. This is absolutely magnificent.
Lani, how you doing, Janez?
Hello, Janez.
This is Jeannie.
Hi,
Nice to meet
Jeannie.
you.
Welcome to Sallandrouze.
Thank you so much, and congratulations on this acquisition. This house is exquisite. I can imagine your reaction was quite like mine the first time you saw it.
I walked in here and I saw that wallpaper and I fell in love with it and I had to have it.
Lani, this place is so beautiful. It must have been a renovation of a lifetime.
Yes, it was a bit of a nightmare and at the same time the most fantastic adventure.
How much of the interior is actually original?
This wallpaper obviously was original, and then there's a beautiful plaque over there that was covered by a board, and a friend of mine who came over to help me do the paint techniques asked me whether he could remove the board because he thought that there was something behind it, and then that was uncovered.
The chateau is massive, and this woman has just got such exquisite style because she's kept original pieces like the tapestries in the home to keep its authenticity, and she's mixed it with beautiful fabrics, and you get the wealth of the place just by seeing the furniture and the colors used. I'm going to leave the spinning for Rumpelstiltskin. It's workshops such as these that have made Aubusson world famous for producing quality and beautiful tapestries. However, markets across the world are able to produce some of these works at a fraction of the cost. So as you can see, production here has slowed down considerably. However, having a look at all these boxes filled with yarn, over time, they will become priceless, beautiful works of art. These looms and the machinery in this room look centuries old. Was this one of the original workshops for tapestry making?
It was existing in the 17th and 18th century here.
A lot of the works produced from this workshop fetch quite a price. What adds that value to it?
Because there is a tradition, and Aubusson has made lots of tapestries in the 18th century all over the world, and that's why Aubusson got a great reputation.
So this is how the tapestries are made?
Yes.
How long would it take for this tapestry to be made?
2 months it will be finished.
What she's doing doesn't leave much room for mistake. What happens if a stitch goes wrong?
No, they are very skilled, so they don't make any mistake.
This wonderful little French woman allowed me to weave a few stitches of her tapestry, and I feel so bad because I must have made such a mess up of her beautiful work of art.
Et appuyez sur, voilà, puis vous passez là, maintenant.
She's telling me as I thread it underneath, I need to move my foot so that you can lift. There's 2 layers of yarn over here. So as you move your feet, you're lifting one and pulling down the other. Very technical. I'll try. Okay.
No,
So, no, that side?
Yeah.
And then that's it. And you go on like that for 2 months.
For 2 months?
Yes.
I think I've maxed my limit at 2 minutes. It was very difficult. It's almost like playing drums. If you consider you've got to move your hands and your feet at the same time, but in completely different directions, you need a major amount of coordination. I find it so sad how tapestries aren't traded and appreciated nowadays as they were when kings and nobility were using them as barter material, really. I just wish there was some way for this tradition to be carried on to our generation, if they can modernize it in some way, because it is really such a beautiful, appreciative work of art. The fact that it takes so much time to produce and the detail that goes into it makes it really, really something rare and valuable.
It's quite a funny story. The reason Aubusson lies so close to my heart is that my father's also bought a chateau here, so he says. Apparently it's not as big and grand as the one behind me, a little bit smaller, and I've never seen it. The only thing I know about it is it's perched beneath a fort on top of a hill, so I better start looking.
Janez had told me about a few years ago, really, that his parents had bought this little property in an old French countryside village, and he really wanted to bring me here. So for him coming here, you could almost see the excitement and the anticipation in him, because he was craving to see his parents' home.
So my mother told me find the house on top of the hill. As you can see, Aubusson isn't that small, and there are about 15 hills in this area. So finding one house on top of a hill is quite a difficult task. Now, the only clue I have is that this house of my parents is situated directly below a fort. So find the fort, Janez. Could be quite a long walk.
This is the Musée de la Tapisserie, the Tapestry Museum. Now, the Sallandrouze family were among the very skilled entrepreneurs who in fact made Aubusson famous for their tapestries. These fine pieces of art are famous now across the world at a very fetching price, and they're all on show in here. How long would it have taken the artist or the manufacturer to have made something like this?
Oh, I don't know, because it's very ancient. It's coming from the middle of the 19th century. But usually we know that they need 1 month or more to make a square meter. It's very long.
How many people would have crafted a rug such as this? Was it one person stitching or a whole group?
There were a lot of weavers weaving on the loom, because nothing is mechanical in Aubusson, and every tapestry or rug or carpet is made on the loom, and especially on the river side, on the back side of the tapestry. And it's very difficult to see the model, the pattern, which is under the warp. Yes. And they have to open the threads of cotton to see the pattern.
How do they get it so perfect and so detailed?
Because they follow the model. And the model is made by ink and colors as well. I can show you a book of samples.
Yes, please.
From Alexis Couder. And Alexis Couder was working for Sallandrouze workshop, and we have many samples of carpets.
Oh, wow. So they would have been presented with these options, and then whoever's buying can choose which one he wants.
It is to choose a command.
This is one of the most beautiful and one of the most modern tapestries that I've ever seen. The artist is a man named Ahmed Mustafa, and he's in fact an Egyptian artist living in London and is one of the Queen's favorites. And if you look closely, this is all put together by letters of the Quran and words taken from the Quran. Amazing!
No, a maid. In French we say a maid.
Really, amazing.
Because we don't speak English. We say what we want.
My guide was this wonderfully hyperactive woman who was so passionate about the tapestries that she just didn't stop talking. And then she was in English, and then she was in French, and she was going on about these tapestries, but they were really exceptional. I had no idea that some of them could reach such great sizes.
Okay, come take a look here. I see a house. I just can't see the fort yet. But we're getting close. I think we're getting close. Nice view from up here. Beautiful. Okay. I think this is it. Because my dad described it as a big house, which he wished he owned, and then a smaller house, which he does now own but hasn't renovated yet. And he said it's directly below the fort, and if you come here, come take a look here, and zoom up there, you'll see those are the walls of an old Roman fort, which is just above the house. So now it's time to find out if this is my home away from home. My dad's always been one of those guys that loves to find remote little houses, old houses. He loves places that have heritage and have history. So this fits his character perfectly. Oh, do I need to go pass through here? Yeah. Okay. Come on. Thank you very much. What's that all about? Walking through your neighbor's house to get to your house? Weird. Come and have a look, it's beautiful inside. But actually, I think we should sleep at the chateau tonight. I won't lie to you, I got quite a shock when I opened up the door and looked inside and there was just building equipment. But I know my dad's got quite a good sense of style and he'll renovate it beautifully. It's an ugly duckling now, but it's gonna turn into a beautiful princess. So Jeannie's planned to meet me at the highest point of the town, which is the old fort. And it's quite strange because that's probably just 100 meters from here. It's right above the house. Hello, Jeannie. I just got the message to me. Oh my goodness. Oh.
Happy housewarming. It's all completely ruined, Janez. It was supposed to be brilliant, but I didn't know Aubusson has electric rainstorms. So now we're going to be rained out in about 20 minutes, so enjoy. Cheers.
This is the most beautiful picnic basket I've ever seen. Thank you, my darling. Mwah, mwah. Come and have a look at my house. It's just over the edge here. Ta-da!
Which wing of the chateau is this?
That's the entire chateau. Let's just say my dad got it just a little bit wrong. That looks delicious, this cheese.
The cheese is gorgeous. It's cow's milk cheese and it's covered in paprika and other spices.
But now one problem, I thought you said no more cheese, no more bread in France.
I know, but I couldn't resist because look how amazing the cheese looks. And this bread, it's normal, beautiful bread rolls, but those are pieces of chocolate.
No, you're kidding.
I swear.
Well, it's all mine then, it's all mine.
And these cherries were just so perfectly fresh. How delicious.
Ooh, stunning. So sweet.
This actually reminds me of one of those scenes in a movie where you see they're picnicking in the rain and it's just so perfect that they all of a sudden burst out into song. The hills are alive with the sound
I think she's lost her mind.
music.
Or she's burning calories, one of the two.
The sound of music. Tra-la-la-la.
Come back, Jeannie.
I bet you they'll appreciate me on Broadway. It's so unfortunate that when most people travel to France, the first place they go is Paris. However, we've traveled south to the Languedoc regions, which is fantastic because it's just close to the Pyrenees Mountains. It's known for a very lush green landscape, and it's got a very reputable wine industry. Wow.
Beautiful.
Carcassonne's towers and ramparts have survived wars and invasions, and this fortress has been used for anything from storing food to ammunition over the centuries. Now today, because of its immaculate state of preservation, it's seen as a fantastic architectural monument, and it's also on UNESCO's World Heritage Sites. Hello.
Hello, bonjour.
Hi Vincent, ça va?
Oui, ça va bien. Welcome to the city of Carcassonne.
Vincent is going to be taking us on the exterior peripheries of the castle, where the public is not allowed to go. Carcassonne was a magnificent little fortified city. I was really impressed with the fact that they built walls around the cities in order to protect them. So there's basically two different size holes. There's one really, really large one, which I can imagine they would throw stones and boulders off. And this one, which is very narrow, is that just to allow the arrow to escape that hole?
This one is very narrow because it's just for a bow. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, wow. A traveller coming to Carcassonne can be forgiven for thinking that he's walking straight into a fairy tale. This fortified city is absolutely majestic. There were 50 towers surrounding the city, and there were vantage points and lookout points from every single place. So you can almost see how they had so much strength against anybody trying to break in. I really did feel like Maid Marian standing upon there waiting for my knight in shining armor to come and save me. Didn't happen. What fascinates me about medieval architecture is that it seems like all of this is just built for fighting. Everywhere you look, there's a vantage point or a lookout point or holes used specifically for bows and arrows. I mean, even over here, there's little slits just to let in the light. Janez, this is the central courtyard for the castle. And I mean, these trees look at least hundreds of years old. Imagine what they've seen and lived through.
And this is obviously the place where all the important people were. And I've noticed they've got structures on the walls, which means that there was a room above here. And I can just imagine the king or the queen sitting on the top there, or the count, overlooking all his guests. Must have been amazing. But you know what really amazes me is that the whole of Carcassonne was impenetrable. It was never defeated. No one ever breached it. And they've got so many different layers of protections. They've got moats, they've got bridges, they've got walls. But this was obviously the final destination for all the folk from all the villages to come into if it were breached. But it never was.
This is the perfect vantage point to see how the city's actually laid out. The castle and its walls are almost circulating the entire city to protect the villagers from any potential intruders. But come and have a look at this, it's exquisite. The castle is magnificent, the churches are beautiful, and just the little village homes. In fine weather, you can also see the Pyrenees Mountains from here, a reminder that until 1659, the Spanish border was just outside of Carcassonne. I'm always fascinated when you go into these small towns, you always tend to see all of these artists and buskers. And we saw this guy who was unbelievable. He had such an incredible sense of balance. He was taking these solid glass balls and putting them on his head and then another one on top of that glass ball. And it was just maintaining such composure and balance. And then he was moving his body around, flick-flacking his feet over next to his head. Oh, agile like a cat, I tell you. And then we came across some other buskers, musicians who were on the guitar. And at first it looked very promising. We thought, oh, this looks good. They look like locals. And we started singing Hit the Road, Jack.
It's a road, Jack. Don't come back no more, no more, no more, no more. It's a road, Jack. Don't come back no more. What you say?
Couldn't play guitar and couldn't really sing. It was entertaining just to watch him sing with such conviction, even though he really couldn't.
One of the legends of Carcassonne is the attempted siege by Charlemagne in the 9th century. The city was basically saved by a lady called Madame Carcasse. And what she did is she fed the last wheat of the city to a pig in front of the approaching army. They thought the city had an inexhaustible supply of food and decided to leave. And hence, they named the whole city after her. So well done, Madame. Now, one would think barges and canals belong in the Industrial Revolution, but that's all null and void. We are here for 4 days to soak up the sun, enjoy ourselves, travel down the Midi River, and just enjoy the French countryside.
Come on, dreamboat, let's board the barge.
Let's go.
Bonjour.
Bonjour.
Hello, Captain.
Ça va?
Hello, ça va? Bienvenue à bord.
Ça va bien, merci.
I welcome you warmly on board Alegria. I'm
Thank
very
you.
happy to host both of you.
The barge looks beautiful.
This is probably one of the most deceiving boats I've ever been in. The interior alone is probably more comfortable than most loft apartments at 140 square meters. And it looks like I'm going to have a very comfortable next few days here. So quiet and calm on this barge because it almost feels like we're completely alone in the south of France because you don't see anybody, you don't hear anything, so it's just ultimate relaxation.
Because it's very difficult for a woman to be like that on the loom. Because they have in first to give babies.
Yes, priority number one, children. Priority number two, sewing, of course.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, bravo.
Encore.
Magnifique.